I really have to admit, I'm not the bravest person. And just right now, I'm standing very close to the border with Gaza, and I'm terrified. Rockets are being fired here. Missiles are flying. The place I'm standing is a small Israeli village, Be'eri, where Hamas terrorists infiltrated on October 7th. I'm genuinely afraid to even begin to describe what they did here, what I saw with my own eyes. Additionally, I'm currently following this Arab photographer, and I'm really quite scared too. He's just 5 kilometers away from me, on the other side, and through his lens, I see the buildings in Gaza completely demolished. There are dead and injured people here, children from Palestine, now orphans. Horrifying. But for me, it's crucial to know and remember this. I'm not a war correspondent, neither a military expert or a political analyst. I'm more confused than ever. What do I say? But the scariest thing I could possibly do is remain silent and forget. 1 month following the Hamas attack, a significant movement of October 7th deniers emerged. New headlines and fresh horrors seem to intentionally wash away the true tragedy of that morning. And that's what truly scares me. I've decided to share a few stories of people who will never forget that truly terrible and shocking day, not even if the whole world pretends that nothing happened. Parking area for participants of the Supernova Festival.
I am Senior Sergeant Igor Zinga. I work in the police, and on October 7th, I was on duty at the Nova party near Kibbutz Re'im.
Igor Zinga, originally from Magnitogorsk, saved over 500 people.
After all the events that happened that day, as soon as I woke up from surgery, when they had just moved me to the ward, I had this thought that maybe I'd imagined it all. Maybe I left that place alone and no one followed me. I was tormented by guilt. How could I leave and abandon the people who didn't make it? But people started reaching out to me and saying, "Yes, we followed you. We survived because of you." That somehow calmed my soul.
The Zinger List.
Do I understand correctly that this wasn't a mandatory job? You kind of asked for this extra work, right?
Whenever there's a chance, I try to take extra work because I have a big family and I need to feed everyone.
Igor is married and has 4 children.
I thought I'd make some money, hang out at the party, then in the morning hop on my bike, head home, and everything would be calm and normal. I came to this party on my motorcycle. Around 3 in the morning, I got this weird message from my wife. She wrote it. She was asking, "Is everything all right?" I joked back, "Yeah, what kind of dream did you have? Everything's fine."
Seems your wife sensed something in the night?
Yeah, like she felt something in the middle of the night. I don't know how to explain it. She's always been like that, really sensitive and often senses when something's going on. Well, at 6:30, I saw the shelling. I saw a lot of rockets. They were flying in every direction. I even saw explosions from mortars in the field right in front of us. I even saw those mushroom clouds from the exploding mines, clouds of smoke. People were in shock too. At first, they didn't understand what was happening. But, you know, at a party, people are having fun, drinking. A lot of them were under the influence of different stuff. They didn't know what was going on. Many thought it was fireworks. Some thought it was some kind of joke. They kept dancing even without music. I saw people like that. It was a real bombardment, not fireworks. It was very clear this wasn't some special effect, but actual rockets launching from Gaza. And it was a massive attack on all of Israel from every side, and it's very scary.
Igor managed to send a message to his son.
Sammy, how are you? Long story short, it's a total mess here. Terrorists broke in, they're shooting, all the roads are blocked. Just don't tell Mom anything. I'm still here. I love you guys. I asked my son not to tell Mom anything. And the most important thing I managed to say was that I love them.
Why did you ask not to tell Mom?
Because my wife is a very determined woman. If she found out something had happened to me, she wouldn't be able to just sit and do nothing. She would just come here for me. Many people I saw couldn't find their cars. Some cars were blocked by others. I saw people who came in groups but couldn't find the car owners to leave. They were running around in a panic, unable to get to their cars. Some people just started running across the field. That's why I was yelling through the megaphone for everyone to get into cars, even if they weren't their own. I saw people in panic jumping through the open windows of moving cars. They were literally diving headfirst through the windows with their legs dangling outside, and that's how they were driving. Everyone was just escaping however they could.
Igor knew an obscure desert road and managed to organize the evacuation of hundreds of people.
On the way, I saw a policeman limping across the field. I stopped next to him and asked what happened. He said he was coming to relieve us for the morning shift. His name is Emil. He drove out from Netivot and got ambushed by terrorists on the way. He started a firefight there and got wounded in the leg. I picked him up, put him in our car, and we continued on our way. 3 policemen with just handguns. We only had pistols to respond to any potential threats from terrorists. With at least 3 guns, we could defend ourselves somehow. I wanted to get to the police station as fast as possible, grab some weapons, and return to help my guys. I arrived at the Netivot station. On the way, I met the head of that station. His name is Yura. I know him. We served together.
He's from Russia too?
He's from one of the former Soviet countries. I told him, Yura, I just got back from the party in Raim, and things are really bad there. We need weapons, helmets, bulletproof vests, anything you can give. He said, all right, go. You've got my permission. Take whatever you need.
Igor decided to return to the festival to save his colleagues.
I heard over the radio channel that we were using at the party that one of the police officers was sending a message. On the radio, you could hear a terrorist aiming a gun at her. For a few seconds, it was silent. Then I heard the terrorist grab the radio and start shouting, Allahu Akbar and Kanire. I understood he had killed that police officer. We started driving, and at some point, I grasped the meaning of the phrase, no signs of life. I saw these cars scattered on the side of the road. Inside the cars or near them were bodies, and I realized this was no signs of life. They were all dead. So these people were lying in such unnatural positions that it was clear they had died. There was no point in checking for a pulse. They were dead. We drove like this for a few more kilometers, seeing all these cars, seeing people trying to escape the party. We were directing them, go home, leave quickly. Some of them got shot at on the road. When we were almost at Kibbutz Reim, about 100 meters away, an RPG grenade hit us. We got out of the car because our patrol car was just a regular police vehicle, not an armored one. We took up a defensive position by the side of the road. After a while, an armored vehicle from the military unit arrived, and we managed to join them. We were in a safer spot. We drove about 200 meters, no more, and we were fired at again from all sides. The armored vehicle broke down. We were surrounded by hundreds of terrorists. At some point, I ran out of bullets and started fighting with my handgun, standing behind the door of the armored vehicle, and when the door was open, it covered you from head to waist. I got shot in the legs. At that moment, it felt like I was hit by a burst of bullets because both legs were bleeding heavily. I got into the armored vehicle. I couldn't keep fighting anymore. And one of the officers there from the military unit, his name was Ruslan, he was a medic, and he stopped the bleeding in both my legs with just his bare hands. A bullet hit one leg, went through both legs, and came out the other. So one bullet pierced both legs and exited. I guess you could say I was lucky.
Did the bullet hit your groin?
Yeah, I've got a wound in the groin area too. I was lucky because the bullet didn't hit anything vital and the bones were intact, as well as the arteries, most importantly, were intact. If the bullet had hit an artery, I would have lost a lot of blood in minutes. It was very dangerous, really. I was already starting to lose consciousness. I started praying, asking God to take me to heaven already. I didn't want to be captured. I didn't want to suffer. Everything hurt a lot. I was in a lot of pain. I closed my eyes and began to pray. I said, God, take me to heaven. I did everything I could. I don't want to be captured. I grew up in the Urals in Magnitogorsk. We had a lot of guys from Bashkiria, Muslims, who came to us. My first kindergarten teacher was Gulnara Keramovna from Bashkiria. She was our teacher in the kindergarten. She was from Bashkiria.
You are crying because things were different back then.
I'm just upset. Why do people behave like this? Gulnara Keramovna loved us very much. She saved us. I remember this one time when we were little kids. We were 6 years old. We went to kindergarten, and in the summer, we'd go to the country house. I remember very well one day when we went out for a walk. She heard something. We were kids and didn't understand anything. I remember she heard something. We couldn't understand what exactly, but we saw there was some danger. She quickly told us, "All kids, run after me." We ran right away. We didn't understand what was going on. We quickly ran to the gate and hid behind it. Then we saw some angry bull coming towards us. We were lucky she was there. We were very scared. We were lucky she was from the village and could hear a bull from a kilometer away. She saved us. That bull started tossing around the blanket we left behind. We were safe because of her. Then that bull started running toward us and tried to open the gate with its horns. I remember it pushing against it, and it was such a vivid memory. We were all so grateful to her. Gulnara Keramovna saved all of us.
We have to save him, no matter what, and get him healed.
Oh, my dear. Noble. Young friends.
Close your eyes, old man, and try to sleep. You need rest.
I imagined Muslims like the people from old Soviet movies. And I think people my age thought the same thing right away, as far as I'm concerned. To me, Muslims were kind, wise, well-read people who were always ready to give advice, loved having guests, and showed kindness. For me, in my experience, that's a Muslim. I watch the news about Dagestan and don't understand what's happening to humanity. And as soon as I woke up after surgery, the first thing I did was ask the doctor, a young woman named Yarden, to call my wife as soon as possible. I wanted to let her know I was alive and okay, and where I was. And the doctor called my wife. It was around 11. They brought me to the hospital at 11:03. I remember that. And I noticed that on my bracelet was the number 209. When there are a lot of wounded in the hospital, they give out these numbers. By the time they brought me in at 11 o'clock, there were already 209 wounded, and there were about 5,000 wounded in total.
Now Igor is undergoing rehabilitation after his injury. He found the person who saved him.
The one who saved me, as I was later told, was Itzik Bazukashvili, the commander of the Segev Shalom unit. After saving 5 of us, he went back to save more wounded. He got them out and went back a 3rd time. That time, his armored vehicle was hit by an RPG and he was killed. Sadly, he died on the spot. That's just terrible. It shouldn't be like this.
Itzik Bazukashvili.
Did you know anyone else from those who died?
Yes, I knew many guys. There were about 30 officers on the night shift, and I knew a few of them. Alon Barak, Sivan Yaniv, Yulia, Emil, the investigator from Be'er Sheva. I knew him. Because those who stayed there didn't stand a chance in that fight. They only had pistols. I mean, how can you fight with just 15 bullets against terrorists armed with machine guns and RPGs with almost endless ammunition? I think it's impossible. It was a clear loss. It was a fight that was lost from the start. In England, there are demonstrations in support of Palestine and in Dagestan too. People don't know, they don't realize they're actually supporting terrorists. At that party, there were citizens of England, the US, and Thailand who were working here and who were brutally killed that day. Why doesn't the world see this? Why does it support terrorists? Those Hamas fighters were killing everyone, including their own Muslims, like drivers at that party. I really don't understand why they are supported. Even a Palestinian from East Jerusalem, who didn't have Israeli citizenship, do you understand what I mean? Was shot too. I don't understand why the world is on their side. In any war, there are no real winners. There are those who lose more and those who lose less.
Today, Igor finally found his motorcycle.
To Grandpa, you're the best in the world. Wishing you health and love. My name is Yosef Rozansky. I was hurt by terrorists on October 7th at my daughter's house.
Yosef Rozansky, originally from Pskov, a chess master and coach. For 5 hours, wounded Yosef protected his family from the terrorists. Is chess similar to life?
It's very much like life. If you don't carefully think and make a bad move, you'll inevitably have to deal with the consequences. The same applies in life. You really need to think before doing something, so you don't end up regretting it later. My wife and I are glad we were there. Imagine if a terrorist had come in and our daughter was alone with the grandkids. Can you imagine that situation? We'd have lost our minds. Better I lose a leg than they lose their lives.
A good move.
I came to visit my daughter's kibbutz a week before this. Unexpected and distressing event happened. Her kibbutz is located near the border with Egypt and Gaza. She has 3 granddaughters and a grandson, and I needed to help out since her husband went to France. I was visiting my daughter for an entire week. On Saturday, my wife was supposed to pick me up and take me back home. She drove over with her mom, so she could see how the grandkids were growing up and thriving, enjoying their childhood moments together.
So you live in the north and your daughter is in the south at the kibbutz?
We traveled across the entire country. On the morning of that Saturday, when we were supposed to return, I decided to go for a walk and unexpectedly saw rockets lighting up the sky. When I returned, I told my daughter what I had seen, and she immediately instructed me to go into the safe room and wait there. This was at 6:30 in the morning. At 11:30, I stepped out of the safe room, went to the bathroom, looked out the window, and saw a fire moving toward us. So, Hamas terrorists set fire to 3 houses and probably wanted to set more on fire. A neighbor from one of the burning houses said, "I'm dying, I can't get out, I'm going to burn, help me." And my wife and I managed to put out the fire. We went back home soon after our daughter returned. At 1:20, terrorists entered our house. 1 or 2, I don't know.
يفتح عرضك فوق نطلع له.
In a classic chess game, when you're in a situation with no way out, what should you do?
I don't know how, but I've had many times when I've successfully managed to save a tough position in a challenging situation. I don't know exactly what I do. Maybe intuition tells me exactly what to do in those moments. My daughter ordered everyone to stay quiet, but the youngest grandson, who's 4 years and 3 months, couldn't help himself and started making noise. A terrorist suddenly approached the safe room door and aggressively tried to open it. He couldn't succeed because my wife and I were both holding it tightly shut. When he saw he couldn't open the door, he must have stepped back and started shooting. My wife and I fell down. The door jammed. He couldn't get in. Blood started pouring from my leg. My wife fell onto the bed at the same time as me, and she was bleeding too. There was blood on the wall, but I don't know whose it was. My little granddaughter, 6.5 years old, fell onto my wounded leg and lay there. All the girls stayed silent the whole time. Not one of them made a sound.
How old are they?
10, 8, and 6.5. All right, let's see if you remember how to set up the pieces or not.
Lolo, tiri, mitzad yemin makom lavan, azkachazer.
Then a terrorist with a strong Arabic accent said, "Open the door, I'll help you." We didn't talk to him because his so-called help was all too clear. He was trying to kill us in cold blood, and we knew we had to stay silent.
So then he couldn't open the door and started shooting?
Yes, he didn't know who was inside the building at that moment. He was shooting because he heard my grandson's voice calling out for help. I should say there were other terrorists who mentioned hearing a child's voice and then started shooting. This wasn't an isolated case. Maybe they were given that kind of order. Maybe they were ordered to shoot until the voices stopped.
Do you actually think that there are people in Gaza who don't agree with their current government?
Yes, I'm sure there are, but they're too scared to speak up. Because if they speak up, they won't survive. It's a terrifying regime. When Anwar Sadat made peace with Israel, he said, "As long as you remain strong and united, you will continue to exist, prosper, and thrive." This was said by a man from the Arab world who was killed for making peace with Israel. So, he probably knew very well what he was talking about. I have good friends who fluently speak Arabic, and I truly have nothing against Arabs at all. However, I'm definitely against those who want to harm me, my children, or my grandchildren. I'm against these kind of people. As for everyone else, I know that many Arab doctors and nurses work in our healthcare system, doing their jobs without letting politics interfere with medicine. Many people from Gaza come here for treatment.
Your wife is also in the hospital right now, correct?
Yes, she's already endured 10 painful surgeries due to bullet fragments that hit her leg. The same thing happened to my youngest granddaughter's leg. She was lying on me, not saying a word. She's 6.5 years old, just watching her grandma bleed out. My daughter did a makeshift bandage for me, put a tourniquet on my leg. I might not have survived without her help. My wife was in so much pain, she told us not to come near her. So for 5 hours and 10 minutes, they watched this horrible scene. Grandma on the bed, Grandpa bleeding from his leg, and the wounded little granddaughter, and everyone just watching each other. I was worried that from all the blood loss, my wife and I might not make it.
Joseph's family was found and rescued by Israeli soldiers.
My dad taught me to play chess when I was about 7 years old. He said my grandfather was a good chess player. Before World War, my dad played for the Mogilev Pioneer House and played on the second board. That's probably why he passed on his love of chess to me. I was the strongest chess player in the Pskov region for about 20 years, from 15 to 35, and then I moved away.
How did you end up actually coming to Israel?
I arrived in Israel in September 1991, coming from Pskov. The atmosphere was quite unstable at the time. There was a group called Memory, and rumors were circulating about potential pogroms against Jews in Pskov. I can't pinpoint who was behind these rumors, but it was definitely troubling and created a lot of concern. The houses had offensive signs saying, "Jews, get out to Israel." It was truly disturbing and deeply unsettling. And since I had a young daughter and wasn't confident I could adequately protect her, I began seriously considering leaving. I was in love with Israel even before I left. It was my dad's dream. He listened to Kol Israel, the voice of Israel, his whole life. I knew I had a lot of relatives here. I love most of all the people who live here. When something happens to someone, they're never left alone in their grief. People don't just show up out of nowhere to offer support. And it's incredibly touching. Everyone genuinely cares about each other's well-being. Living among such an amazing and supportive community, I consider it a truly huge blessing. I see people come in with terrible pain, scared, and in a very bad state. But after just a few days, you start seeing genuine smiles on their faces. They begin to walk and gradually get significantly better. The recovery process happens quickly, and I believe it's a miracle of Israeli medicine. People I don't even know come to visit me unexpectedly, bringing me thoughtful gifts that brighten my day. Suddenly, I found myself surrounded by enthusiastic chess players who wanted to play with me, even people I had never met before and who shared a passion for the game. Yesterday, Boris Gelfand and his wife came over to visit me. Boris Gelfand was the world's #2 chess player about 12 years ago. He almost defeated Anand and nearly became the world chess champion himself. I successfully managed to play a challenging 15-minute game with him as white and ultimately secured a draw.
Despite the doctor's efforts, they couldn't save the injured leg.
They said that since my nerves were severely damaged, there was a chance amputation might be necessary. So I wasn't entirely surprised when I woke up after the surgery and found out that my leg was gone from the knee down.
How did you actually take it?
I calmly took it all in stride, as I already fully understood the situation and confidently faced it with a clear and focused head.
Will your wife really be able to walk?
I really hope so. A few days ago, she mentioned that her leg, which she hadn't felt for over 2 weeks, started hurting. I see that as a good sign. It's clear that she'll be able to walk again. She might even recover before I do, and I'm really hoping for that. As for new sensations, it seems like my brain hasn't fully realized that I'm missing a leg, causing unexpected confusion and disorientation. One day, I thought I could move my left leg, and when I tried to step on it, I unexpectedly fell to the floor with a thud. I won't be making that mistake again. Since I don't have a left leg, I'll rely on my strong right leg to carry me forward. Sometimes I feel like I still have a left leg, that there's still a foot there, even though it's gone. I do this exercise. I grab the part of my leg that's left and rub it. It helps relieve the discomfort. I really hope to return to my old life soon, where I can continue teaching kids how to play chess and, if it's possible, get back to playing myself. I hope I'll get a prosthetic and be able to walk. One professor here at the hospital said, I might even dance. I don't know if I plan to dance, but I'd be happy just to walk.
The students beg Yosef to not stop teaching.
All right, just a second. Family. Okay, Yosef. I can't find it, but if I do... Oh, Yofi.
Hello, Yosef. How are you feeling today? I truly hope you're starting to feel a lot better by now. I really miss you and can't wait until we can start our lessons again. I hope you recover quickly and feel better soon. And get well. Goodbye.
Oh, how sweet. That's wonderful. And did he say he wants to be a champion?
Yeah. Exactly. I said, let's keep working. Maybe he'll beat me. That would be great. None of my students have beaten me yet.
Gotta surpass the teacher.
Yep.
In life, unlike in chess, the game continues after checkmate. Isaac Asimov.
This is my son, Nikita. This is Tamir, a soldier who serves with Nikita on the base. And this is Ron. All three of these soldiers were captured on October 7th.
Sergei and Ekaterina Bezer are from Mariupol. Their son, Nikita, was kidnapped by Hamas. A Hamas captive.
We were abruptly woken up by a phone app alert about an impending air raid and the serious danger of shelling. The alert was in the area of our son's base. We called him. It was around 6:30 in the morning. He answered, We could distinctly hear the warning sirens, the terrifying sound of rockets falling, and all the accompanying noise. This was because Gaza is very close. There are only about 10 to 15 seconds from the time a rocket is launched until it hits its target. I asked him if he had managed to put on any protective gear, such as a helmet or a bulletproof vest in the chaos. He said they didn't have enough time to put anything on. It all happened so incredibly fast. As soon as there's a brief pause in the action, they plan to go to the room, change their clothes, and put on all of their necessary protective gear. Around 7 in the morning, the news on television reported that there might have potentially been a breach by terrorists into Israeli territory. We started calling Nikita, but we could already hear the sound of gunfire and other terrifying noises in the distance. At that very moment, the call unexpectedly disconnected. After that, the phone was completely out of our immediate reach.
Nikita had just turned 19.
Nikita's childhood friend called me in a panic and said, "Katya, I'm sending you a video." He was hysterical, crying and saying, "Please, just tell me it's not Nikita." After we saw that video, we were in shock and horror. The worst nightmare you can possibly imagine. We saw them taking our child away. He was being taken by terrorists.
From the base?
From the base into Gaza.
According to YouTube's guidelines, we cannot show this video, as it shows Nikita being beaten and taken away by terrorists.
When this started happening and those videos began surfacing online, my first thought was to immediately watch them, searching for my child in them. After I watched all of this for quite some time, it became so terrifying that at a certain point, I just couldn't bring myself to keep watching any longer. On one hand, I desperately wanted to find my child and understand what was happening to them. But on the other hand, seeing all of this was just too horrible, absolutely unbearable to witness. That's precisely why.
Were your children born in Israel?
Yes. They speak Hebrew, of course, although when they were little, we consistently spoke Russian with them up to a certain age in their early childhood.
And what cartoons did your kids watch growing up?
When they were little, they only knew Russian ones. They know Crocodile Gina, Cheburashka, and Nu Pogodi by heart, including all the songs from these classics and fairy tales. We also watched Hedgehog in the Fog together recently.
Nikita joined the army voluntarily.
You know, for some reason, Russian kids, and by that I specifically mean those who come from the former Soviet Union, seem to exhibit a noticeably stronger sense of patriotism and a pronounced desire to serve in combat units within the military forces.
Look, my grandfather, who was Jewish, pure blood, fought in the war from the first day to the last, from 41 to 45. Already, right here in Israel, I found out for certain. He was actually a scout.
And he held a high position, led people. He was on the front lines all 5 years.
Yeah, right.
He got awards.
All 4 of them.
I guess it's in the blood.
He knew all about this, the whole story. He knew all of it.
Nikita went over there during this past summer.
He started his service on that particular base on July 1st. This strategically important base functions as a sort of intermediary, facilitating crucial interactions and communications between the Palestinian Authority and the Israeli government. Everything that is transported from Israel to Gaza is closely monitored and regulated by this base. They are responsible for handling the issuance of work permits for Palestinians, conducting all necessary negotiations, and hosting delegations that visit, including foreign ones. Essentially, the base takes comprehensive care of all these matters. So, the irony is that the base, along with all the soldiers who were truly trying to improve and stabilize the everyday lives of the citizens living in the Palestinian Authority, ultimately ended up being one of the very first to be captured during this unexpected terrorist attack. And most of the terrorists who infiltrated the settlements near the border were actually individuals who had been living there and working among the local community for some time. They possessed detailed maps of all the houses and settlements, with each individual house meticulously marked on them. These maps even showed the precise layout of the rooms, where the safe room was located, how many people lived in each house, their ages, if there was a dog present, where the kitchen was situated, where the bedroom was, and so on. These were indeed the people who worked in these houses, knew them from the inside out, and were thoroughly familiar with the people living there. No one could have imagined that something like this could happen.
This unfortunate woman was captured along with her two very young and little children. It's a Russian family. And there was a couple, a guy and his girlfriend plus his mom. They came to a settlement located near the border with the intention of visiting his beloved parents, and unfortunately, they were all captured together as a family during their visit. That's yet another entire whole family. Mom, dad, and two little kids. They were also taken from their home.
Baby is 9 months old?
9 months, yes. You look at these pictures and you're just completely stunned by the sheer amount of horror that people went through. The hardest thing is to truly understand why exactly they took these little ones as hostages. Like this little girl, she's 3 years old and she was captured all alone. Her dear parents were unfortunately and tragically killed. When I eventually found out that she was taken away alone, I prayed earnestly that she'd be somewhere near my son, because I knew that if he saw her, he would definitely choose to stay with her.
Yesterday, the commander from the base came by personally and brought all of Nikita's things. They have two distinctly different types of uniforms that they wear regularly. One set is designated for when they go outside the base, and the other is specifically intended for when they are stationed on the base itself. These are the headphones he bought for himself as a special birthday gift just a month ago. These are all kinds of different sports equipment that he had collected. He went to the gym every single day and worked out. He knew a vast amount of information and was always eagerly learning something entirely new and different. He also took a first aid course. He carefully treated all the soldiers.
And he's really that kind-hearted, huh? You always talk about how he would rescue a dog here or help someone there.
Oh yeah, there's quite an interesting story with this dog. A little white puppy unexpectedly showed up at the base. It looked like it was really very young. And when the commander saw Nick feeding the dog, he immediately started yelling at him. But Nick simply said, "I can't do it any other way. Can you imagine? I go to the mess hall, eat until I'm completely full, and the dog stays hungry?" And he took care of her, always fed her, made sure she had water, and even bathed her.
Nikita's sister is performing the Jewish ritual of Hafrashat Chala today. It is said that if you bake and burn the bread, you can change God's plan.
So does that mean that bad things can also come from God?
Of course.
Nikita ended up captured by God's will. We can't argue with God.
It's God's
This
will.
difficult life trial was
That's
meant
what
for him
God
by fate.
wanted.
We really hope he's in those underground tunnels built by Hamas. Under the Palestinian Authority's territory. Beneath the city of Gaza, there are over 500 kilometers of tunnels that can extend as deep as 30 meters underground. We strongly believe that our son is somewhere down there because, to them, he's seen as something extremely valuable. They might potentially use him as an essential bargaining chip in future negotiations. We really and sincerely hope so. They definitely won't let him die from hunger, thirst, or anything else like that. Because based on their past experience, a soldier is usually considered to be a much more valuable asset to them in these types of situations.
Yeah, it sounds harsh.
When will he be released, or how many hostages have been freed so far?
As of today, 5 hostages have been released.
No, 4 were released.
And 1, yes.
And 1 girl was freed.
And 1 girl, a soldier, was freed during a military operation.
When you see this news, what do you feel inside? Does it give you a sense of hope, or do you feel regret and sadness that it's not about Nikita?
On one hand, we're very happy for every person released, for their families and loved ones. But there's another side. This situation gives us even more reason to be deeply worried, because when we carefully look at those individuals who have already been released, it's clear they were let go for specific reasons. For example, the first 2 hostages who were freed were American citizens. The next 2 hostages were elderly women, quite advanced in age. It's likely another psychological tactic employed by Hamas, trying to show the world how generous they are by releasing older people. We're really afraid that our young soldier will be the last one they release, if they even think about releasing him at all, and only do so for some other very specific reasons.
Now, a more cynical question, especially for you. How much sympathy do you have for the ordinary people of Gaza today? Or given
Can
your
I answer
situation, do you find that you no longer care at all?
In 2007, during the first major escalation, we went in with the intention of handling the situation. However, the moment they started using children as human shields, we had no choice but to pull back right away. Today, those same children went in. Right? Yeah, like the 7th and the 23rd. Those kids went in today. We didn't go to them. Nikita didn't go to them. We never went in with the intention of harming them. And we've never done such a horror of it before. Now, everyone's rallying to protect the Palestinians. There are only about 2 million of them. So, why not open the borders and let the women and children out? And the men who don't want to fight. Believe me, there are a lot of people there who don't want this war either. They used to work well in Israel and lived better in Gaza. If you take the time to look up the detailed stats online, you'll easily find it.
But Hamas won't let them leave.
First, Hamas doesn't let them go. Second, Egypt won't let them in. They're completely stuck.
We've been living here for a total of 23 years. Israelis are genuinely good people and form a very tight-knit community. And yes, they truly want to live in peace. Additionally, there are many Arabs living peacefully among us in all Israeli cities. Many of them live in the community just like everyone else, working diligently as we do and leading normal, everyday lives. If you visit an Israeli hospital, you'll quickly see that a significant portion of the doctors, nurses, and medical staff today are Arab residents. Israel clearly understands the crucial importance of distinguishing between terrorists and ordinary Arab residents who contribute positively to society and help maintain peace.
I saw that you have a poster with a peace dove on it. Is that from the families of the missing individuals or hostages? They're passionately calling for people not to go into Gaza and not to engage in such large-scale and destructive wars.
Opinions are divided. The families of the hostages are very worried and very scared. On one hand, everyone gets that the terrorist regime needs to be taken down. But on the other hand, there's a lot of anxiety and worry for our loved ones who are stuck over there. At this point, we have no idea where they are or what their exact situation is, where they are being hidden. So every single missile that flies over there in the sky stirs a storm of emotions in the heart of their loved ones. We're very afraid that all of this could seriously put our loved ones' lives at significant risk. From the various videos we've seen, it's clear that among those who ended up in Gaza, there are some individuals who are wounded, but there are even more who haven't been harmed and remain completely uninjured. So we know that when they ultimately ended up in Gaza, they were indeed alive and well. We sincerely hope they have a chance to survive these harsh and challenging conditions and return safely.
How do you feel about Putin meeting with Hamas these days? It seems like Russia is clearly siding with Hamas, especially with these official meetings that are taking place now.
I'll be completely honest with you. At this point, I don't really care who pulls him out. I just don't know if he can actually manage to do it. But if he somehow manages it, then why not? I don't care who it is, whether it's the United Nations, Russia, Egypt, Bahrain, or any other nation that's friendly with them, even including Iran itself and its allies. I don't care who does it. Whoever manages to do it, I'll definitely see them as the true winner.
The yellow ribbon is an international symbol of hope for the safe return of hostages.
These rallies are happening all over the country.
All over the country.
For what?
Our government's policy is that we should make every effort to return to a normal life as soon as possible. The war will inevitably go on, and it's probably going to be quite long and challenging. But the whole country simply can't just come to a complete stop. We need to actively try to get back to some kind of normalcy in our daily lives. We don't just want to get back to our normal life as it was before. We truly want our loved ones to be safely returned to us. That's why we're actively trying to draw more attention to this critical situation.
The local football team came today to support the Baser family.
Do you remember the very last conversation with your son? What did he say to you? What was his voice like?
He earnestly attempted to calm me down and ease my worries. He said, "Mom, I'll be okay. Don't worry. Everything will be fine." And we believed him.
But did Nikita ever lie to you?
No. We're waiting for him so much and hoping he'll come back. We're sure he will come back.
That's the only thing keeping us going.
The only thing that supports us.
I am Ilya Azimova. I sat in a burning house for 4 hours.
Ilya Azimova is originally from Baku. Hamas militants killed at least 130 people from her village.
I step out and I see everything is burned, all black, smoke everywhere. I can't see anything. It's all smoke and ashes. And then suddenly, I notice a phone on the shelf. I pick it up, open it, and see messages from my daughter. A bunch of them, one after the other. Mom, where are you? Mom, answer me. Mom, please answer me. Mom, I love you. Messages like their goodbyes. I immediately call her back, and she, almost in a panic, asks, Mom, where are you? I say, at home. And she replies, no, you're not at home. You're in their hands. I say again, no, I'm at home. Do you want me to show you what's left of it? I called you on the phone and terrorists answered. But they know Hebrew. Because they were speaking Arabic, laughing, yelling at me. Then they said something in Hebrew. We're in your house. This is your home. My daughter immediately thought that if terrorists were answering, then I must be in their hands, taken hostage.
Seva Adam, red color.
The Tseva Hells went off. That's the siren. It means everyone has to run to the bomb shelter. I automatically got up and ran to the shelter. Didn't even close the door. I stood there for just 2 or 3 seconds. Then an explosion went off. Explosions are kind of an annual event for us. Every year, we have explosions, sirens go off, we rush to the bomb shelter, stay there for a few seconds, and then come back out. We've gotten used to it. I never thought that,
this could be something much bigger.
Yeah. After that, the messages started coming in. My friend texts, there's a stranger in my yard. Then, he's coming closer. He's at my door now. Next, he's breaking down my door, trying to get inside. The third message, he's climbing the stairs, already on the balcony. When I looked out the window, there was a garden across the road. Behind this garden stood several 2-story houses. That is, they were close and I could see everything clearly. As I observed the scene, I saw someone moving on the 2nd floor of one of these houses. And I thought, maybe it's a policeman. Maybe they've come to check things out. He started looking around, and suddenly he turned, saw me, raised his weapon and said, there. And he fired a shot. Right here.
Wow, they actually shot.
Yeah. Maybe he was shooting low, like if he was up high.
It seemed like he was aiming at our legs.
Yeah, it looked like he was shooting low, not high.
So did you hide here?
I immediately hid behind the wall, and then I ran back to the mamad, to the bomb shelter. After that, I heard everything go quiet. I considered the possibility that it might have been our soldiers who mistook me for a terrorist. Perhaps they couldn't see clearly from a distance and misunderstood the situation. Meanwhile, throughout all of this commotion, my husband remained asleep, completely unaware of what was happening. I turned to him and said, "Hey, get up. Something's not right. There's this bag sitting on the road, and it's been there for quite some time now. Probably around 40 minutes. Could it be that our soldiers accidentally left it behind? He went to check and then returned with a grave expression saying, "You know that thing you thought was a bag? It's not a bag. It's actually a body." And it wasn't just one body. As I looked more closely, I counted several more scattered along our road. The entire road was littered with bodies. I asked him, "Who are they? Our soldiers or not?" He said, "It's hard to tell. They're all in our uniforms."
The terrorists were dressed in Israeli army uniforms.
We were in the living room. Suddenly, I saw the front door open. It's glass, and someone stepped onto the balcony. I was scared. The atmosphere was very oppressive. I heard footsteps, and I felt uneasy. The handle slowly began to turn downward, as if it was just about to open the door and allow someone to come in. I instinctively dropped the phone and bolted to the bomb shelter, like a bullet. My husband ran after me, and I pulled him into the shelter and shut the door. I heard them shatter the glass door. I was shaking and could hear someone moving around the house. I was trembling with fear and could distinctly hear someone moving around inside the house. I heard footsteps echoing through the rooms, accompanied by the crunch of broken glass under their feet. That unsettling sound seemed to linger in my ears the way they were aimlessly wandering around the house. My husband started saying something, and I told him, "Shut up, be quiet, don't say anything, so they don't know we're here." I froze, listening to their movements, where they were going, how they were moving around the house. And then I realized they were already in the room. The room right outside the bomb shelter. Just the day before, that room was completely packed with boxes and different stuff. Our daughter was in the process of moving, and she brought everything from her room, all her personal things, to our place. She left on Friday afternoon to go study abroad after being accepted into a university. On Thursday, she had moved all her stuff to our home. The room was filled with things like pillows and blankets, with piles of items stacked up on both sides, which ultimately ended up providing us with protection. All this stuff was piled up on both sides, and now it ended up protecting us. I ran in here. And this door isn't visible from outside when it's closed. When you come in, you can't see the door from there. I closed it. So when they came in, they just didn't see this door. Look.
Is this how the window
Yes.
in the Mamad closes?
Yes.
With an iron shutter?
When there's a military situation, we have to close everything, especially these iron shutters.
All the way?
All the way. If you don't close them all the way, they can be opened from the outside. In some places, they managed to use a crowbar or something else to break through the metal and throw grenades inside the shelters. So you have to close these iron shutters completely. This is where I sat.
Did you have any specific thoughts or ideas running through your mind at that moment?
In the morning, I'm still thinking about how I had a shift at 2 on Saturday. At 2 o'clock, I had a shift and was supposed to go to work. I looked at the clock and told myself, okay, it's 10, it's 11. If they're still running around after noon, then I'm not going to work at 2. I don't know why I was thinking about it. Maybe I was trying to distract myself.
I'll have to take time off?
Yeah, I'll have to. Yeah, that's what I thought. Still not realizing something serious was going on. I wasn't really paying attention.
4 hours later, Ilya and her husband smelled smoke.
And suddenly, I touched the door. And the door feels like it's on fire. I said, "Hey, I think the house is burning." There was so much smoke. The smoke was so thick it burned my eyes. It was impossible to even get through. It was terrible. He went out. And I shut the door. I closed the door. Barely managed to pull myself together. The smoke was so dense, I didn't know what to do. There were no cloths to cover my mouth, so I just grabbed whatever I could to try to breathe without inhaling all that gas.
This thing is very beautiful.
It's an antique. Belonged to my husband's grandmother. By now, it's over 200 years old. I mean, it was inherited from my husband's grandmother. From his grandmother to his mom, then to my husband. But the kids, they didn't get it. Yeah, it's an antique.
Is it completely beyond any repair?
It's beyond repair.
Maybe the wood can be restored.
No, I don't think so. This was the living room, yeah. There was a sofa, an armchair, a coffee table here.
Was that the TV?
That was the TV. Everything melted.
What exactly were they throwing, and what did they use to set it on fire in the first place?
In some houses, they threw grenades. In others, they tossed tires. They'd set car tires on fire and throw them in. Here, I don't know what they threw. Something was lit and thrown right into the living room. In the ashes, there was nothing left to find.
All the terrorists in the kibbutz were neutralized only by 6 in the evening.
At 6:30, I heard noises again, shouting in Hebrew from our soldiers. I cracked open the window and saw them. They looked and were dressed like our soldiers. I shouted, "Don't shoot! I'm a civilian." I was very scared. I wanted someone to help us. A few minutes later, they asked us to get on a bus. And we were taken to a safe place. As we were leaving, the whole road the cars were wrecked, with dead bodies all around. Bodies, bodies, bodies. The whole road to Yad Mordechai was littered with wrecked cars and bodies everywhere. Just like that, everything was covered with bodies. I lost so many friends who lived in the kibbutz. My friends, they were killed. So many friends. The entire first week, all we did was bury people. There were funerals every day. But I could only make it to 3 of them a day. Sometimes 5 or 6 people were buried in one day. Every 10th person here was killed. There are families where only 1 out of 5 survived. They killed the father, mother, 2 brothers. He's the only one left. There are houses where nothing is left. Everything burned down.
Are you Jewish by nationality?
No. I had a wonderful life in Baku. I was working. Making money. Everything was going great. I didn't come to Israel for the money. I got married and moved here.
What do you truly love about Israelis, and what kind of people are they generally?
They're my friends. I live in a place where I can knock on any door, and everyone is ready to help if I need anything. And I love that. Love is here. Love isn't something you list reasons for. Why you love? I just love.
Now, excluding Azerbaijan from consideration, but unfortunately, most of the Muslim world seems to be against Israel.
I'm sorry that the majority are against Israel, but I'm not into politics. I wish everyone could live like brothers. All across Europe, there are now so many Muslims, so many Arabs and refugees from Africa. It's the same situation in America and Canada. Their propaganda is stronger than ours. When I say ours, I mean the Jewish side. I'm not Jewish myself, but I consider myself part of this community. When you open YouTube, you only see headlines about how Israelis killed little kids, how Israelis are dropping bombs and children are dying. But our children are dying too. We weren't at war, but they came into our homes, killed and slaughtered people, then burned everything down. So look at the situation from our side too. See what they've done here. Have you seen this? Look at how they relentlessly fired AK-47s at young people who were celebrating all night at a festival in Re'im, in the kibbutz. They just crossed the border on parachutes and started killing. The attackers showed no mercy as they infiltrate the festival grounds, which were filled with thousands of attendees enjoying the party. They started shooting at civilians. Imagine opening your window and seeing a stranger who came to kill you. I've lost so many people I know here. It hurts so much. It really hurts.
Today, a temporary military base of the Israeli army is located in Kibbutz Be'eri. The residents have been relocated to hotels.
Right now, we're living in a hotel. That means we have a temporary roof over our heads. Volunteers are helping us with everything. With food and everything else, they're helping with absolutely everything.
Where is your daughter now?
My daughter came back. She stood up to defend her homeland. She came back, came to me. She hugged me, kissed me, and said, "Mom, I want to be here. With you, with my friends, to be close to you." This all happened on a Saturday. And by Sunday, she was already here. Since that Sunday, she's still in the army. I just asked her not to be on the front line, not in combat units. That's the only thing I asked. She reassured me that she wouldn't be in combat. But still, I've seen her maybe twice since then. The rest of the time, she's been in the army. And I keep asking her, "When are you planning to come back? Your classes have already started." So when will you be back? And she says, when things settle down.
When Ilya will be able to return to her home is still unknown.
My biggest dream is for the war to end as soon as possible, and for the rebuilding efforts to start quickly. Though it's not even just rebuilding, it's
reconstruction.
It's not just repairs, it's rebuilding everything from scratch, and I hope we can return home soon.
Do you want to come back here specifically?
Yes, of course. This is my only home.
What do you mean?
I don't have another home. You know how they say when you get married. For better or worse, in sickness and in health. This is my home. And I will definitely come back here. We will all come back here. I hope so. I really hope that we'll all come back. Start everything from scratch. But we'll be back.